A. Alright. You know what? Let's go human for this last one. Next one. I don't know if this is the last one. I hope it is. Really gotta get to case 4 tonight. Noodles. I only have one thing of instant noodles. And I usually eat that for lunch during work. I don't like to eat that, like, I wouldn't want to eat that, like, 4 in the morning. April 2nd, 3:11 p.m., Zodiac Hall, Fountain Room. Miss Bound, are you feeling a little calmer now? Yes. Good. Then allow me to get to the point. Regardless of your intentions, you broke the law. Yes, I understand. Nevertheless, I understand that you did what you did in order to prove Mr. Tangaroa's innocence. Therefore, if the real culprit really is someone else, then we have a duty to reinvestigate the case.
Overruled!
Bitch, remember the statute of limitations? There is nothing to suggest that anything nefarious took place in the official IS-7 incident records. And right now, there is nothing to suggest that we should take Miss Bound at her word either. So our first order of business should be to arrest the culprit of the case before us, Miss Bound herself.
Objection!
Official records can always be trusted, Judge Gavelle. Especially since there are those prosecutors who would think nothing of twisting the facts.
Overruled!
Are you suggesting that the committee at the time overlooked such a prosecutor? That's for you and your people to figure out. However, it is a fact that the autopsy report was faked. Seeing as Mr. Frost's body was only found just now. There really is something of Mr. Von Karma in you, Mr. Edgeworth. How so exactly? By continually defying the will of the committee and then bending the truth to fit your needs. That's how. Perhaps it's time you understand how how the committee sees this case. He is willing to accept that Mr. Von Karma falsified Mr. Frost's autopsy report. Even still, Mr. Von Karma only managed to have Mr. Tangaroa convicted as an accomplice. I personally have come to believe that the real culprit behind the IS-7 incident is Miss Bound. Her plan to poison and kill Mr. Gusto today was her attempt to frame him for Mr. Frost's murder. And this is how the committee sees things, is it? It is. As always, I act solely in service of law and order. It sounds to me like all she's doing is acting in service of the committee and covering up the truth. And if I can't change her mind, then there will be no saving Mr. Tangaroa or Miss Bound. Why would she need to? The statute of limitations was over.
Hold it!
Why would Miss Bound have chosen to frame Mr. Gusto for the murder? No doubt because he suspected her of being the real culprit. He may have entered what he thought was the Winter Wing simply to see if the Gemini statue was genuine. Little did he know that he would be greeted by a trap designed to silence him. A trap that nearly worked.
Objection!
Do you have any evidence to support that line of reasoning? Unfortunately, Mr. Gusto remains in critical condition. It'll be difficult to prove anything until he regains consciousness. In other words, there's little we can do for now. On the contrary, there's plenty we can do. You still have not grasped the situation, have you? Then allow me to spell it out for you. We have all the evidence we need to explain both the IS-7 incident and the poison gas attack.
Hold it!
All the evidence you need. In the matter of the IS-7 incident, we have a body, a murder weapon, and 2 suspects. As for the poison gas attack, we have the sources of two chemicals and Miss Bound's confession. And as for you, Mr. Edgeworth, we also have enough evidence to see that you yourself will have to answer to the committee in a formal hearing. Whoa, that doesn't sound good. Don't worry, Mazzarino. If nothing else, you're always more than welcome at Edgeworth and Company. Your Honor, I'd greatly appreciate if we could stay focused on the matter at hand. Of course. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, threatening to take your badge away. We've therefore determined that there is no longer any need to investigate either case any further.
Hold it!
You really mean to assert that there are no loose ends left to investigate? None at all? All the evidence has been examined at length, and there's nothing more to be learned from them. Therefore, I see no need to further prolong this trial. This court finds the defendant, Miss Judy Bound. Your Honor, I'm certain there's something that still needs to be examined. The hammer is about to fall, Mr. Edgeworth. Only hard evidence can stop it now. I almost read this, the hamster is about to fall. And I was going to switch to this. Which I guess I did anyway. Present what you think requires further deliberation now, assuming there really is anything left, that is. It isn't over yet, not by a long shot. Still one thing we don't have an answer to, and it's up to me to point that out to Judge Gavel. The salt lamp? Probably not. Finger marks! We never found out about this. Nope, that wasn't it. Care to value your testimony at all, Judge Gavel? No, why? Do you believe there's something wrong with it? Well, no, nothing of the sort. Then perhaps you could refrain from insinuating otherwise. Well, that blew up in my face. The kids being missing, maybe?
Objection!
Nope, that wasn't it either. Would you mind taking a look at this, Judge Gavel? I'm expected to accept this thing as evidence. It appears to have no connection to my testimony. Judge Gavel's a tougher nut to crack than Mr. Winner. That doesn't mean I should give up. There we go. It's kind of a guess, but I figured it had to be something related to it. I'm afraid there's still one more question concerning the IS-7 incident that remains unanswered, Your Honor. Would you mind taking a look at this? What is it? They're test results, carried out in the liquid at the bottom of the Gemini case in the Winter Wing. As you could see, traces of blood were detected. The question is, whose? Until that question is answered, I hardly think you could claim to have all the evidence. There was blood in the Gemini case? Why did I not hear about this from Eustace? Because Detective Gumshoe informed me of the results directly. I was planning to tell Mr. Winner about it myself, of course. You kept this to yourself until now? Despite having no jurisdiction here whatsoever? Mark my words, the committee will hear all about what you have done here today. As ever, my interest is in the truth, and if mistakes were made in the past, they must be rectified. If you must report me to the committee, then so be it. But in return, we must be allowed to investigate this case to the very end. That is not my decision to make. You need to discuss it with Eustace. Where is he? Guess who's back, losers? And with good news, too! It was a close call for him for a minute there, but Carmelo Gusto is alive. Gusto. He made it. You're the ones who found me. Yep. Long time no see, Gusto. You're the attorney's assistant. You've grown. And you have an assistant of your own now. Assistant? No, I'm... He hasn't got the gig just yet. This is Gregory Edgeworth's son. Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth, at your service. Fate moves in mysterious ways. I'm in your debt. If you hadn't found me in time, I wouldn't be here to thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. It was Larry who found him, not you, not them. After all, if you hadn't lived, we wouldn't be able to ask you what really happened 18 years ago. Huh? What are you talking about? Figured out quite a bit while you were out cold, including the fact that you're probably the guy who offed poor Artie Frost. What? Is that true? Miss Bounce set up a very elaborate trap to catch Mr. Frost's murderer. A trap that involved rigging the Pisces case with poison gas. Perhaps in light of that fact, you could tell us in your own words what happened back then. Wow, this dude just woke up from a poison gas attack that almost killed him, and is immediately being put on the spot to be investigated. You would think there'd be some kind of, like, law protecting him from having to do that. Or perhaps you'd rather exercise your right to remain silent. Oh, it's not that. Gusto here's a fan of the old meditation. You know, Om and all that jazz. Wow, sleeping while standing seems pretty cool. It's one heck of a talent. Except there's no sleeping involved in meditation, Kay. Hey, Gusto, old pal, how about you snap out of it and tell us what went back down way back... I was caught in the girl's trap, so I must be the killer? Is that your idea of a joke? I'm the victim here. Indeed you are, Mr. Gusto. There's no evidence that you've done anything wrong yet. Mr. Edgeworth and Mr. Fender are merely speculating. Rest assured that they have no authority here and that you may pay them no heed. At least somebody here seems to be on my side. Judge Verity Gavel, it's a pleasure, Mr. Gusto. I will assist you in any way you may require. Perhaps you could begin by explaining what actually happened 18 years ago to Mr. Edgeworth?
Fine. You want me to prove I'm innocent, Mr. Prosecutor? I'll be happy to.
Objection!
So this is how you mean to play it, Judge Gavel? You're hoping Mr. Gusto will help you try to hide what happened instead of trying to correct the record? I believe only in the infallible judgment of the Goddess of Justice. Except it's us humans who make the actual judgment calls in a court of law. And so long as there are those who would use the law to their advantage, our rulings are fallible indeed. If you would use your position to further obscure the truth, then neither she nor I will forgive you. We shall see about that.
What do you advise, Judge Gavel?
It would seem that you're under suspicion because it was you who triggered the poison gas. Specifically by opening the Pisces case's lid. Would you be so kind as to share why with us?
Understood.
You can't see it, but he's getting ready to brandish his knife down there.
Came to see Mr. Frost's sculpture. Simple as that. I made a mistake with the opening times and arrived a half hour early.
Miss Bound, was there no one at the reception desk at around that time? I had left the main entrance unguarded and unlocked, just in case the killer made an appearance. I was also busy making preparations elsewhere, all the way up until the gallery's opening. So no, there was no one here on the first floor then. But I did make sure that all the wings were locked up tight. All except for the Autumn Wing, that is. I see. You did all that just to steer the culprit into the Autumn Wing. Which is precisely where Mr. Gusto went. Sneaking into a building is pretty suspicious, however you slice it, though. Silence in the courtroom. I'll permit no objections or interventions unless there's some evidence that the witness is lying. The courtroom? You know this is an art gallery, right? Mr. Gusto? If you would please continue by explaining why you opened the Pisces case.
I wanted to see Mr. Frost's work up close. So I went up to the Gemini, sorry, I guess it was supposed to be the Pisces statue, and I saw that the lid was frozen on tight, so I grabbed a blowtorch from nearby and tried to open it. When I finally got it open, gas came pouring out.
Fascinating. His is the sort of flawless testimony attorneys can only dream of. Yeah, the everything sounds like a lie kind. I'm none too satisfied with Mr. Gusto's explanation myself. Alas, there's no evidence to refute it. Come on, there must be something.
It's Bound's story you should be questioning, not mine. I'm not the one who set up the gas trap. She could have killed anybody with that thing.
Objection!
She turned on the sprinklers as soon as the gas was released. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was gunning for the killer and nobody else. That killer being you, old pal.
So you believe that that self-confessed criminal?
Miss Bound is far from blameless in this affair, and she will have to pay for her crimes.
But so will Mr. Frost's killer. You seem determined to pin Frost's murder on me. But I had no reason to kill him. And you have no evidence to prove otherwise.
Can we really not prove he's the killer, Mr. Edgeworth? Mr. Gusto fell victim to the poison gas. That much is indisputable. Yet no matter how suspicious his actions in the present may seem, they prove nothing about the past. Yeah, but... then what about you, Mr. Fender? There must be something we can do.
You're right. We don't have evidence, but we have plenty of intel. Let's see now.
If Gusto killed Frost, he must have had a reason. He claims to have a motive, but that can't really be true, can it? He claims not to have a motive. If he did it, he has one. Not many people commit murder just for fun. In fact, your old man had a little back and forth with Von Karma about the probable motive too, remember? No Frosts allowed. Gusto helped Frost in the final, but the favor wasn't returned. Von Karma wouldn't let us talk to Gusto back then, but we can now. If we can put the pieces together, I think the picture we've been looking for might just emerge. Yes, I think you might be right. Need to think back over everything we know about the IS-7 incident. Especially the questions that never got answered. The finger marks. Miss Scone denied that the finger marks on the frame were hers. But what if they were Mr. Gusto's? Perhaps he wanted to take a look through the Ultimate Cookbook for himself. More film had been used up than Tangaroa expected in the camera. Did someone else use the camera? My father noticed these things for a reason. I just need to piece them together correctly. In the absence of evidence, it's the only way to the truth. Gusto claims he had no motive reason to kill Artie Frost, but... Cooperation ended. Friendship ended with Artie Frost. Now Miss Bound is my best friend. Mr. Gusto. You and Mr. Frost conspired to create works for the contest together, did you not? Huh? So you know about my little secret. Mr. Fender was kind enough to inform me. Mr. Frost was in charge of the designs while you were in charge of the flavor, is that correct? Huh. What can I say? It's not a long way to travel on the road to becoming a master confectioner. But you only collaborated up to the semi-final. Something changed after that. We both wanted to show what we can do. Show that we were better than the Tangaroa.
Objection!
Then why'd you help Mr. Frost with his entry for the final? What grounds do you have to say that? Your own statement, made to Mr. Von Karma 18 years ago. You told him that you had been working together right up until the day before the final.
Objection!
So why didn't Mr. Frost help you in return, I submit that your relationship broke down for some reason, and that became the basis of your motive for murder. That's not how it was! Sure, we stopped working together, but it was all perfectly friendly. You stopped working together in a friendly way? Kinda hard to imagine, but okay. Besides, how do you think I did it exactly? You think I just strolled into Tangaroa's room and killed Frost? I couldn't have killed the man while Tangaroa was in there working on his chocolate pieces, could I? So you see, it couldn't have been me. I wouldn't be so sure. Must have been a window of time when Mr. Tangaroa wasn't in his room. And if I could prove that, I could prove that Mr. Gusto had the opportunity to kill Mr. Frost. That's not quite right. Need to reconsider the information at hand. Timing and exposures. Nope, that wasn't it either. That doesn't add up. Better think again. Really? How does this work? Photographing the cookbook's contents would be the perfect way to steal its secrets undetected. Oh! Didn't think of that. And what if Mr. Gusto did just that? What if he used Mr. Tangaroa's camera to photograph the book? It'd be the perfect crime. So much better than stealing it and getting chased by the cops. A sneaky snapshot or 20, huh? That could work. The only question is, when would he have done it? Good question. What about during afternoon tea? Didn't Delicia say that Gusto and Frost had missed out on the little tea party they had? Which brings me to the next question. When do we know for certain that Mr. Frost was still alive? Nobody saw hide nor hair of Frosty secluding himself in his room after the contest began. Only person capable of entering his locked room was Tangaroa, possessing, as he did, the only key. Miss Scone, or Miss Tangaroa's work's the only one he sampled. Nope, she sampled all of them. Mr. Frost had kept himself inside his room after the contest had started, but he was gone by the time Miss Scone snuck into it to sample his work, meaning there's a good chance he was murdered before the end of afternoon tea.
We can be sure that Mr. Frost was alive until the beginning of afternoon tea, making tea time the only window during which Mr. Gusto could have killed him. Are you satisfied with Mr. Gusto's story now, Mr. Edgeworth? Sadly, I'm afraid I'm still rather unsatisfied. But things are finally starting to become clear, and the truth will soon come to light at last. You mean to say you have uncovered new evidence? Evidence? No. I was hoping I might convince Mr. Gusto to open up to us about it instead. Oof. Oh, is it mind games time again? It is. Mr. Gusto, I have a question for you. I said I have a question for you. What is it? You chose to make your entry for the final on your own. I told you I wanted to test myself. I wanted to prove I was the best in the world.
Objection!
If that were the case, then surely you wouldn't have chosen to cheat in the first place. So tell me, Mr. Gusto, why'd you feel the need to team up with Mr. Frost? "18 years ago, Mr. Gusto and Mr. Frost collaborated in the confectionery contest. But why did they work together, and why did they enter the contest in the first place? That's the information I need to get out of my opponent somehow." Oh god, 4 pieces! Mr. Gusto seems to have a habit of pretending to be asleep when things aren't going his way. Let's start by focusing on why he chose to work with Mr. Frost. By my hand, now is the time to dig up the truth that was buried all those years ago. Mind chess, commence! Why did you collaborate with Mr. Frost, Mr. Gusto? We were acquaintances before we were contestants. He was interested in entering the contest, so we decided to sign up together. And your decision to pair up with the sculptor had nothing to do with your lack of faith in your skills. You don't know me. We joined forces because we wanted to make the most perfect creations possible. That's all. I will expose your lies in the end, Mr. Gusto. It's only a matter of time. Sorry, wanted to see if I could do an impression of you. Turns out it's easy. He's happy to bide his time as well, it seems. I pick my words more carefully. I study my opponent's reactions and pick my own responses accordingly. Frost's son and my son were in the same grade at school. So we got along pretty well, too. Oh, so you were just two friends who happened to have the... So you were just two friends who happened to try for the title of World's Greatest Confectioner. Ugh. I'm still recovering, so if you've got nothing to say, let me go back to the medical room. Oh, wait. May need to be a little more proactive there. Okay, so when he's pretending to sleep, that's when I rail him with the question. I thought it was the opposite. Pretending to be asleep when the going gets tough won't work on me, I'm afraid. Bruh, dude.
Bruh.
Mr. Frost was a sculptor, Mr. Gusto. Doubt he cared much about a winning title for confectioners. In which case, he probably had a different motive for taking part in the contest, wouldn't you say? Fine, it was me. I wanted that title. Frost was only in it for the prize. The ultimate cookbook. I see. And since your objectives dovetailed so neatly, you decided to work together. But then something happened. A breakdown in your relationship, perhaps? If so, I want to know why. Mr. Prosecutor, I'm still quite unwell after my brush with death. Push me too hard. And I'll be on my way back to the medical room. No, wait. You better wrap this up quickly. I'm already dangerously low on patience. Mr. Gusto is trying desperately to make his escape, but he's not going anywhere just yet. Not as long as he's still keeping things from me, so let's figure out what he was really after next. There's no time to lose. I need to pick the right line of questioning, and fast. Did you want to appear in Bacon Bop? No. Did you want more than just a title? You too had your eyes on something other than the title, didn't you? After all, I'm not sure even the title of World's Greatest Confectioner even counts for that much. Huh? Now you're insulting the way of a confectioner? My goal, my only goal, was to win that title. I didn't care about anything else. You have no idea how much it would have meant to me. Look, my sense of design may not have been up to snuff back then, but you should see me now! Oh? So you've improved? You bet I have. I didn't do all that training in Zheng Fa for nothing! Oops. Should have stayed quiet. I looked up to Tengaro, you know? Spent hours poring over the designs of his work. I even used to watch his show with my son. Sounds to me like Mr. Tangaroa's work was especially influential in your early studies. And with his recipe book, you might have even become the best someday. Maybe. That book was a real treasure, no doubt about that. Any confectioner would have wanted it. You claim that your only goal was to win that title. Yet you also seem to have an interest in the contest prize, the ultimate cookbook. The greatest collection of recipes by the world's greatest confectioner. Confectioneer, excuse me. I can't say I had absolutely no interest in it. And even if I did, what exactly is so wrong with that? Nothing, I suppose. Only that the book contained recipes for medicines, not desserts. And everyone who entered the contest supposedly knew that. Look, I'm finally getting somewhere. Can't let them slip from my grasp now. Just need to stay calm and keep the pressure on. Next, let's find out why he wanted the cookbook. So your plan was to win the cookbook and use it to help you with your own creations. What else? A book like that could have improved my craft tenfold. Could have made a lot of money if you'd sold it. I don't know much about what was actually in there, but it was worth more than money, I'll tell you that. Come now, Mr. Gusto. I think you claim you know more about the ultimate cookbook than you claim. It was a little bit about the start of the contest. Then you know what kind of recipes it actually contained, don't you? That they weren't dessert recipes at all. So you did your homework. Fine, so you know what was really in there. The Ultimate Cookbook, or the Angel's Cookbook, to give its proper title. It's a collection of chemical formulas and ways to synthesize new medicines nobody had ever heard of. So we did know that the cookbook actually contained recipes for medicines. This could be an important clue. Did you know how valuable the cookbook really was? What kind of question is that? It was a collection of Tangaroa's recipes. There wasn't a confectioner in the world who wouldn't have wanted to get their hands on it. Time to deploy my clue. Except you knew that's not what's really in there. Your designs may have improved thanks to your training in Zheng Fa, but you clearly didn't do enough work on your skills of deception. You've already admitted that you knew the Ultimate Cookbook was a collection of recipes for medicines. Thereby making your interest not gastronomical, but pharmaceutical in nature. You were trying to become a pharmacist. You needed the medicine, didn't you? As I said before, archive that book. Yeah, he took photos of it. You're a confectioner, Mr. Gusto. You had no professional interest in revolutionary new medicines, which suggests that your interest must have been personal. I underestimated you. Fine, you're right. Winning the title wasn't the only reason I had for entering the contest. I needed one of the recipes in that book. It was for my son. He was sick. He was? Tell me more. That's none of your business. As I've told you as much as you need to know. He looks rattled, but I can't let him off the hook. Let's find out what this mystery illness was. Almost gotten to the bottom of this. I can feel it. Just a few more moves. Tell me more about your son. Tell me a little bit more about your son. He was my pride and joy and my biggest fan. You entered the contest in order to help him. You clearly don't have children of your own. Any father would have done the same. Would have done anything to help him. Anything! He would come see me here at the contest venue, too. Right up to the semi-final. Really? He didn't get in the way of your work? You were trying to beat Samson Tangaroa. Surely you didn't have time to look after a child. Yeah, well, I wanted to do what I could for him. He said he wanted to always be the first to try my creations. You said your son was sick, Mr. Gusto, and he was able to come and join you for the contest? It wasn't that kind of illness. Nothing life-threatening, anyway. This feels like it could be an important clue. Could you tell me about the name of your disease your son suffered from? You're a real cold customer, Mr. Prosecutor. You're a real cold customer, Mr. Prosecutor. Isn't it enough that he was seriously ill? Why would you want to force me to tell you more? Time to deploy my clue. But it wasn't life-threatening, was it? You already shared with me that your son's illness wasn't life-threatening. So why are you so reluctant to share any further details? It may not have been life-threatening, but that doesn't mean it hadn't been life-altering. I see. That must have been very hard on the both of you. Of course it was. That's why I did everything I could to find a cure. We were desperate. He couldn't taste anything, not even his favorite desserts. Was he overweight? No. Did he have a taste disorder? As I understand it, the Ultimate Cookbook contains the recipe for a very particular medication. One that Mr. Tangaroa used to cure himself of his own taste disorder. So he had it too? Too, you say? So your son has a taste disorder then, am I correct? How did I let that slip? You've been asking me to believe that you needed to win the cookbook in order to cure your son. Was that really the case? Of course it was. What are you saying? I'm saying that I'm not so sure that's true based on everything you've told me. I don't have a clue as to how to proceed with this line of questioning. I'm gonna try another tack. So you need the cookbook to cure your son. Yeah, nowadays you could get the medication he needed anywhere. But back then the book was our only hope. Which is why I didn't dare waste time on fancy parties. Had to give all of my work. What about Mr. Tangaroa's work? Surely that tea break gave you the perfect opportunity to go steal a glance at it. What makes you think I had the energy or time to care about what others had made? I'm still recovering, so... Oh, shit. Not right. Oh god, we're running low on time. I think you've made it abundantly clear how much interest you had in Mr. Tangaroa's work. What's more, if you were that determined to win the Ultimate Cookbook, I seriously doubt you would have passed up a chance to take a peek at your competitors' entries. I'd had plenty of chances throughout the contest to see and sample my rival's work, you know? But each time I did, nothing seemed to have any flavor. Must have been nerves or something. Nothing Mr. Gusto tasted any flavor. That seemed like it could be an important clue. Time to deploy my clue. You were sick yourself, weren't you? Taste disorders are difficult to live with. It isn't easy not being able to enjoy your food. You should know. After all, you just told me to experience something like that during the contest. You said that nothing you sampled had any flavor. Those were your words, correct? Which would seem to suggest that you were suffering from a taste disorder. Confectioner without a sense of taste? Not exactly ideal. Are you sure it wasn't actually your own condition you were seeking a cure for, Mr. Gusto? Ugh! Had enough of your speculations. Managed just fine in that contest. I made my own entries, no problem. But he said his kid wanted to have every dish. Yeah. Hey, Robo Bunny. Sorry, I'm afraid you're contradicting your own testimony. You already admitted that you and Mr. Frost had worked together during the contest. It's too late to claim you did it all on your own now. You would have us believe that you are a man of principle, a dedicated student of the confectioner's art. Yet you abandoned those principles and conspired with Mr. Frost to rig the contest. Also, you could cure your own taste disorder. got me, Mr. Prosecutor. As you said, my sense of taste was shot. My son's was fine. I kept it hidden for so long, 18 years, and nobody knew. Sadly, you can lie to others, but you can't lie to me. Both Mr. Gusto and Mr. Frost entered this contest, hoping to obtain the ultimate cookbook, for the medicine that would cure Mr. Gusto's disorder, and the money it would bring in for Mr. Frost. Thus an uneasy alliance was forged, and that, I believe, is checkmate. Mind chess, checkmate. I'll admit it, you're good. Never told anybody any of this, but you figured it all out anyway. It's true. 18 years I developed agwesia. What's agwesia? Or agousia? It's a taste disorder that makes it so you can't taste anything at all. Confectioner's worst nightmare. Mr. Fender, is this what Mr. Tangaroa had as well? No, the big man had what they call dissociated taste disorder. Basically, some things he could taste just fine, while others had no flavor at all. So he suffered too. Can't have been easy. Not when there wasn't a way to cure it on the market. Which is why you needed Mr. Tangaroa's cookbook. You admit now that that was the real reason you would enter the contest? It was only one of the reasons. I wasn't lying when I said I wanted the title. When I put my mind to something, it gets done, and I won't lose to anybody. May not have been able to taste it then, but I still know my stuff was good enough to win. Oh? So you went to the final thinking you stood a good chance of winning. Of course. What was it that Fender said about what Mr. Tangaroa thought of Mr. Gusto's creations? Perfect balance of flavor and design up to the semi-final. Disappointing, his entry for the final was subpar on both counts. Told that your entry for the final was far from the prize-winning taste sensation you describe. What happened, Mr. Gusto? What went wrong that day? Fine. You want me to talk? I'll talk. But you're not going to like what I have to say. My entry for the final. My summer vacation. Frost and I were working together right up to the semi-final. I handled the flavor, he did the designing. But I want to face Tangaroa in the final on my own. No help. Just me and my skills. So I helped Frost with his entry, but mine I did alone. If it didn't taste good in the final, that's on me. What can I say? I lack training. And that's all there is to it. Happy now? There don't seem to be any obvious contradictions in his testimony. Yep, not that I thought it'd be easy to get anything out of him. Bye, Jimmy, age 5. He's managed to not let anything slip. He's managed to not let slip what really happened for 18 years after all. Why don't you try pushing him a bit, Mazzarino? See if you can't shake something loose. I think I might just have to, Fender. Fendior.
Hold it!
Frost was in charge of designing the work you both submitted, while you handled the taste. Yeah, he was a sculptor, a craftsman, and his sense of design was second to none. But he was as clueless about confectionery, which is where I came in. We each did what the other couldn't. And boy did you not have an eye for aesthetics, not even for the simple stuff. How do you like me now? It's a cool phoenix. Huh, the national symbol of Zhangfa. Oh yeah, it's a phoenix. That's awesome. I'll say, pretty different to the stuff you were pumping out 18 years ago. Behold the fruits of my training. I've dedicated my whole life to my craft. But back then, we both needed each other's help, so we joined hands until the final.
Hold it!
You were serious about winning the title then? Of course, the art of confectionery is my life. Why wouldn't I have wanted to be crowned the greatest? But I still had a lot to learn back then. It's no surprise my work wasn't up to scratch. The title wasn't the only thing you wanted. There was the cookbook, too. And you wanted the book even more than you wanted the title. Isn't that right, Mr. Gusto?
Overruled.
Mr. Edgeworth, you are badgering a witness who is still suffering the effects of today's attack. I cannot allow this harassment to continue. I understand, Your Honor, but
Ignore him, Mr. Gusto. You need not answer that vile prosecutor's question. But please, do continue your testimony in your own time.
Hold it!
So you're saying Mr. Frost didn't help you at all? But he'd helped you up until then, correct? It's a bit strange for him to stop so late in the contest, no? Strange or not, it's the truth. Could be he had his reasons too. I wouldn't know. If he's lying, it's gonna be a headache to prove. 18 years is a long time. Not unless that gizmo of yours has a built-in lie detector, Kay. If it did, I've stolen the show from Mr. Edgeworth long before now. Don't worry, Fender, I could tell when he's lying. No doohickeys assistance required. Please, Mr. Gusto, continue with your testimony.
Hold it!
And yet, I hear that your creations prior to the final were scored highly for their flavor. So what went wrong? What went wrong? Was there some kind of cooking accident that day? No, nothing like that. It was... I told you, I had a taste disorder. My sense of taste failed me. It's as simple as that. Mr. Frost's entry was complimented on its flavor. Your sense of taste hadn't failed you then. Did something happen overnight? Don't think he's going to spill any more beans, Mr. Edgeworth. Then perhaps I should ask him something else. Did something change between the semi-final and the final, Mr. Gusto? Not really. The only difference between the semi-final and the final was that Frost wasn't helping me. Not true. Gusto's son visited his father daily up through the semi-final.
Objection!
I can think of one significant difference between the semi-final and the final, Mr. Gusto. Your son. This is him in the photograph, correct? You told me he was here with you up through the semi-final. He was... What of it? What, indeed? He was here with you until the semi-final, until he suddenly wasn't for the final. And just as suddenly, your work went from being lauded for its flavor to being lambasted for it. I don't think that's a coincidence, do you? He wasn't just spending quality time with his father. He was playing a much more pivotal role than that. I just wanted him to see me hard at work. To show him I was trying the best for both of us. Who knows? Maybe it was him being around that helped me do so well in those early rounds. Talk's a good game, but there's nothing about this guy who screams super dad to me. Indeed, thankfully we would only have to give such an idea credence if his story were true. After all, how much could the encouragement of one small boy affect the taste of a grown man's work? Mr. Gusto prided himself in the flavor of his creations, but then he lost his sense of taste. He must have had a tough time maintaining his high standards after such a devastating loss. Unless... I'm sure your son wasn't here to cheer you on, and that wasn't all he was here to do, was it? You're a very suspicious man, Mr. Prosecutor. Why not try answering yourself for a change? What was an elementary school kid doing here other than to support his father? To steal other people's creations, to make your creations for you, to taste your creations. Your son knew the taste of your work pretty well, I imagine, Mr. Gusto. He was my biggest fan. Of course he knew it. In which case, he would have been a good judge of whether something tasted on brand, so to speak. No? What are you implying? You've already told us that you were suffering from a taste disorder. A Guiza. A Guiza? A Guiza? No one knew about your condition. Indeed, I doubt Mr. Frost would have wanted to continue collaborating with you if he had found out. After all, it was your job to make sure his creations tasted good. Therefore, your son wasn't just here to support you. He was helping you by taste testing your work. Dang, now it all makes sense. Frost's stuff tasted good because it was really finished by the day before when the kid was still here. You have a vivid imagination, Mr. Prosecutor. Or do you seriously think I'd trust a kid to tell me how to adjust the taste of my masterpieces? I have some pride, you know, even back then. Did you now? My designs may not have been much to write home about back then, but I always knew my work tasted better than anybody else's. Think I'd risk everything by putting my reputation in the hands of a child? This is just more speculation. That's all it is.
Ah. In that case, I ask to speak with your son this instant. Let's see how much of your story he can corroborate. Sadly for you, my son is no longer my concern. What? As soon as I got my sense of taste back, I went straight to Zhengfa to start my training. And cut off all ties with the kid for good.
What?
You abandoned your own child? And that ain't the half of it. No one knows where he is, even now. The cops have looked all over for him, but no dice. So, still think you can prove your asinine theory? I'd like to see you try. Think I care about anything besides confectionery? Think again. Got my sense of taste back. What need do I have for a son?
Wow.
Silence in the courtroom. While Mr. Gusto's words and actions may demonstrate a certain lack of humanity on his part, the goddess of justice cannot judge him for that. Therefore, Mr. Edgeworth, I believe it's time for you to admit defeat.
How do you even? You be an asshole like Mr. Gusto here.
Yeah, give it up. 18 years is a long time for anything to surface now. Proof or otherwise.
Mr. Edgeworth, we have to do something. If we don't, the truth might be lost forever.
Where are you, Detective Gumshoe? That's the last piece of the puzzle, I'm sure of it. Once we know whose blood it is. Hey, Miles, sorry to cut in your mind palace time. Your mind palace time. But I was pondering something myself. Our friend Gusto didn't come here just to check up on the body, did he? You mean because he tried to open the case? Exactamundo. Think we have anything that might explain why he tried to do that? We might, if Detective Gumshoe can make it back in time with a certain piece of evidence. That's quite enough idle chatter, Defense. Now if you... Mr. Edgeworth, sir! Sorry to keep you waiting! Speak of the devil. I take it you have the test results, Detective? Yes, sir. Lab just got back to me. Detective, please. Court is in session. Now then, am I right to assume that you are bringing us the evidence Mr. Edgeworth was just speaking of?
What? Hey, no fair. Why didn't anybody tell me about any of this?
Is indeed the evidence in question, Your Honor. It needed testing, so I asked him to carry it out.
What the? Why is everybody always helping you? I'm supposed to be the one in charge here.
Mr. Winner, I'm sorry it didn't involve you, but this is important. Can we at least hear what the detective has to say?
Well, alright.
So, Detective Gumshoe, what do the tests have to tell us? You're not going to believe this, but the owner of the blood we found the liquid at the bottom of the Gemini case is... Carmelo Gusto, the victim of the poison gas attack. What are you talking about? Thank you, Detective. You've been very helpful. Well, it looks like my suspicions were correct.
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
Yes, what do you mean? What do you mean? Explain yourself. You ever hear that line from Mega Man X7? I've streamed that game before. But that line is, It's the guy that voices Barry in the original Resident Evil as Red. And there's a part where he says, "What do you mean?" Very weird. Very, like, overdramatic. I guess not. All of Red's lines from X7. I don't really want to scope through them all to find it, but...
What's wrong, guys? What are you doing? You! What have you done to my pals?
Oh.
That's too far.
We have quite enough. I thank you truly, but we already are.
But his talents are wasted.
Here it is.
As things stand.
What? What do you mean?
It's like so... yeah, he puts like a period between each of the words. I always thought that was really funny.
Things stand.
What? What do you mean?
I should put that... I should put that in the stream deck when I update it in like 6 years. I still have a long list of stuff I want to put on there, and I just haven't. In fact, I should type that down so I don't forget it. Hey, Zijimong, thank you for the raid. What's the significance of the blood to this case? Whoa, whoa. Almost knocked my drink over. It's the very thing that perpetrated the IS-7 incident has been trying to hide all these years. Yeah, it's very Shatner-ish. Yeah. What's with all these women and their BDSM implements? The fact that your blood was found inside the Gemini case, Mr. Gusto, is as good as us finding your blood lying right next to Mr. Frost's body.
Overruled.
Why would there be traces of your blood there? Of all places, Mr. Gusto. Wow, this, chat thing really didn't update properly, huh? What are you streaming? You doing art or game? If you won't answer her honor, Mr. Gusto, then I will. This wasn't just blood in the liquid from the Gemini case. There were traces of salt and sugar, too. There were? And if you remember, one particular part of Mr. Frost's work was allegedly very salty indeed. Oh yeah! You're talking about what Delicia told us back then, right? What was it again? Tried something so scrumptious. Man, I wish I could have a bite. Well, sometimes just gets the salty bit. That was unbearable. The salty bit. It's in the other photo you gave me. The harpy thing. When this part goes up on YouTube, with the part where they first showed the circle around the thing, look at the thumbnail very carefully. First art, then Liza P. You're about 2/3 the way through. Nice. If I improve in art enough, I might consider doing art streams, but I also only have my tablet, so I'd have to set it up to stream from it. Yes, the lyre, and only the lyre, tasted as if it had been flavored with salt. There were no traces of salt anywhere else in Mr. Frost's entry. Very interesting. Then perhaps you could tell us, Mr. Edgeworth. Where did the salt on the lyre come from?
Take that!
This is the salt lamp from the IS-7 incident? Well, you called it. The salt lamp was licked, just not in the way you thought. Indeed, and I believe that the salt lamp that gave the lyre its flavor came from just such a lamp. The salt that gave the lyre its flavor. Mr. Von Karma established that both salt lamps were in Mr. Tangaroa's room at the time of the crime. One of them was used to kill Mr. Frost. And it was stained with his blood. But no corresponding pool of blood was found in Mr. Tangaroa's room. Right, because the culprit had chucked a piece of the chocolate with that into the little stream. Furthermore, aside from the lyre, no traces of salt were found anywhere else in Mr. Frost's room either. Hey, come to think of it, the lamps we found in Delicia's room were both broken too. Never did figure out where the one that wasn't used to kill Frost got busted, but we're thinking maybe it had Gusto's blood in it at some point. And anyone whose blood was found on one of the lamps would have been a person of interest to the police. So the killer needed to hide the blood somehow, and in a way that wouldn't arouse suspicion. And you're seriously suggesting that the lyre was used to do just that? I am. I suspect that the bloody salt was somehow applied to the lyre so that it could be hidden inside the case. Because unlike the fountain water, the sculptures would have needed more time and care to test properly. And so he waited and waited for his chance to dispose of the lyre undetected. Dispose of the lyre. Then the reason he's here today is... 18 years ago, Mr. Frost's body and the evidence pointing to this killer were taken away together. This, of course, was not part of the perpetrator's plan, and thus a new dilemma arose. How could he be sure that neither Mr. Frost's body nor the evidence wouldn't be discovered someday? So back he comes 18 years later, sneaking in bright and early to try to cover his tracks. Well, Mr. Gusto, are you finally ready to admit it? That you're the one responsible for the IS-7 incident? Mr. Gusto, it's all because of you that Samson... Yeah. Gusto. So I finally got caught, huh? All these years later. I want to point out that that means that Delicia licked something that probably had blood on it. Kinda gross. Nobody came close back then. Not even the big shot prosecutor or the attorney. That's some impressive work, Mr. Prosecutor. I have to hand it to you. You admit it then, that you murdered Artie Frost? Sure. Sure I do. Is that a health violation? I mean, murdering someone's also a health violation, so... I did it. I killed him. But he only had himself to blame. What do you mean by that? He agreed to help me. We were supposed to help each other so that one of us could win. And whoever won was supposed to let the other use the cookbook. But on the day of the final, that rat finally showed his true colors. Seriously, Frost, we had a deal! Sorry, I'm not helping you in the final. Our little agreement is over, Gusto. But I helped you! I spent all day yesterday making the ice for your pieces! Did you? And you can prove that, I suppose. What do you... Wait! You were planning to betray me right from the start, weren't you? After Frost double-crossed me, I had to make my piece for the final by myself. And like you said, my son wasn't there, so I didn't have any help with the flavor either. So much for the pride you claim to have in your ability to make delicious desserts. Go ahead and judge. You have no idea what it was like for someone like me to lose my sense of taste. I give him everything to become the best. Everything! I take pride in that. Something someone like you could never understand. You're right, I don't understand. Do you take pride in the fact that you resorted to murder? Or that you abandoned your son? Why would I want to understand someone who could do such things? A man can't afford to rely on other people. I learned that the hard way 18 years ago. My son never showed up on the day of the final. And in hindsight, I wouldn't be surprised if Frost was the reason why. Why would you think that? What exactly happened to your son? How am I supposed to know? I told you, he's none of my concern anymore. And according to you guys, nobody knows where he is now either. And you don't care? You're horrible! So with his disappearance, so too went your chances of winning, correct? Yeah, had to find another way of getting my hands on that book. That's when inspiration struck. Decided to skip afternoon tea and snuck into Tangaroa's room. Should have been so easy. All I had to do was photograph the formulas I needed and get out of there. But then Frost showed up. I thought I might find you here. Thought I might find you here. Stealing recipes from a famous cookbook, Tut, tut, tut. Frost! What's this? A cure for taste disorders? Oh no, that's just too tragic. A confectioner who can't taste anything? What will people say? If you tell anybody, I'll... Ah! You'll what? Can't even hit me, you miserable worm. Why, you... Frost shoved me hard when I went to punch him. Knocked me clean off my feet. I crashed into one of the lamps. Must have been when my blood got on it. So Mr. Frost wasn't the first to get hurt. When it was all over, I realized I had to get rid of the blood somehow, so I scraped off all the bloodied bits. I dissolved those blood shavings in some flavored ice mixture and brushed it all over the harp. Yep! Delicia absolutely just ate blood 18 years ago. And that's how you made the evidence linking you to the murder vanish. Frost was going to blackmail me. He would have made me give him money to keep quiet about my condition. So you decided you had to kill him. Yeah, guess I did. Why would I let him live? Would you want someone holding something like that over your head? Besides, he's the one who drew first blood. Makes for a solid first case of self-defense, don't you think? So that was the impetus behind it all. Anyway, I initially took the lamp to Frost's room. Went straight there once I'd figured out how I was going to hide the bloody part. Inspired by all the ice sculpting tools lying about the place, I guess. You're not as dumb as you pretend to be. Yeah, figured I could use them to chip off and grind it up. Once that was done, painting the stuff all over the harp was easy. But why, Samson? Why did you have to frame him? I never meant for the cops to pin it on him. That was your fault, you and the rest of them. Why do you think I went to the trouble of placing the lamps and cloths back in Scone's room? There's only one reason to plant the murder weapon in the room of another contestant. That's to cast suspicion on that person. What? You tried to frame me, Gusty Pants? Lost her accent again. Yeah. But why? Why poor old me? I respected Tangaroa. He was the best. A true champion. I would never have wanted him to take the fall. But you're a fraud. Your work wasn't even real. You had no respect for our craft at all. You deserve to be punished for what you did.
Oh, Gusty, how could you?
Had you refrained from eating Tangaroa's work, Frost's body wouldn't have been found. My plan was to wait until Tangaroa was judging your room. That's when I'd sneak the corpse into Frost's room and freeze it. But thanks to you, Bound was found it before I had the chance to retrieve it.
I don't understand. Why'd you need to freeze his body at all?
Ha! Why indeed?
Mr. Edgeworth, surely you must know. Why did Mr. Gusto need to freeze Mr. Frost's body? Pass off as an ice sculpture to obscure the time of death to hide the true crime scene. To obscure the time of death. Mr. Gusto needed to freeze Mr. Frost's body in order to obscure the time of death. If they determined that the murder occurred during the afternoon tea, he would have been an obvious suspect.
Bingo! Freezing Frost's body wasn't simple. Preparing everything took time. So I decided to put his body in the chest in Tangaroa's room while I got everything ready in Frost's. At the time, it seemed like the perfect hiding place. Never counted on some gluttonous pharmacist showing up and making the whole ship collapse.
I still don't get it, though. Why disguise the body as an ice sculpture at all?
We'll have to check that out later. The sooner it was found, the smaller the effect of the freezing would have had on masking the time of death. Therefore, he needed to disguise it, at least until it had fully frozen.
How awful, using Mr. Frost's own work to help you cover up the truth behind his murder.
Ironically, Tangaroa would have been just fine if the body hadn't been found before I got out of his room. If only things had gone to plan, he wouldn't have even have been arrested, let alone convicted.
You mean it was my fault? Everything that happened to Samson, it was all because I found the body.
Don't let him get inside your head, Judes. None of this is your fault. I mean, you did try to poison him to death. That is your fault, but whatever. If it wasn't Samson, it would have been Delicia instead. She would have been the one they arrested. Either way, there's only one person to blame here, and that's Gusto. It didn't help that the initial detective was so bad at his job, either. He never even told the prosecutor that the body had vanished.
What was his name again? Aidman or whatever?
So then Mr. Von Karma had unwittingly placed Mr. Tangaroa under arrest in the absence of a body. I mean, I guess it would explain why he was so keen to wrap things up. Still, you'd think he'd notice something as big as that if he had taken a look at a few reports, right? Not if someone had deliberately distorting the facts of the case, though. Either way, it seems that Mr. Von Karma didn't know about the body until after the arrest had already been made. But admitting that would have spoiled his perfect record. So he kept it to himself and proceeded to prosecute Mr. Tangaroa regardless.
Can this really be true? You don't feel bad at all? Somebody spent 18 years in prison because of you. Like I said, everyone sucks here. Yep. Trust me, we haven't gotten to the full extent of how much everyone sucks here yet. Not maybe in this case, but overall. Don't worry.
Sticks and stones, girlie. Sticks and stones. What a jerk. I'll arrest you right now, pal.
I'm afraid I can't allow you to do that, Detective.
So you noticed, huh? Glad somebody did. The judge is right. You can't lay a finger on me.
What? Why? You just confessed to murder.
No idea, huh? And I guess I better lay it out for you.
Why? You can't arrest me.
I killed Frost 18 years...
Is this the ambassador all over again? It is, but in a different sense. Because it's not about space, it's about something else. Also, thought this guy is dead. No, it's the other guy. Frost was the one who died.
I killed Frost 18 years ago. The statute of limitations for murder in this country is 15 years. You do the math. You can't arrest me. You think I'd have confessed otherwise?
That's right. The statute of limitations is only 15 years. Is this really the end of the line, Mr. Edgeworth?
Once the statute's expired, you can't be charged, so...
It looks like Vega. But... How unfortunate, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm afraid that both Mr. Gusto's confession and your deductions will have to be struck from the record. And that Mr. Tangaroa's conviction will remain in place. Let's find a different crime to arrest him for. Yeah, but that wouldn't free Mr. Tangaroa.
What? But we finally have proven the police never had Mr. Frost's body in their possession. Even if we can't arrest Mr. Gusto, surely Mr. Tangaroa has the grounds for a retrial on that basis. Does he? I wouldn't be so sure. I'm afraid that the goddess judgments are somewhat harder to overturn than you might imagine. So the committee means for the verdict from 18 years ago to stand no matter what. Bad luck, Mr. Prosecutor. Must be something we could do. Something to bring Mr. Gusto down.
Hold it!
The passage of time doesn't diminish what you did, Mr. Gusto. It sure diminishes one thing, though. Your ability to arrest me. Oh, we can arrest you. We can arrest you real good. We'd have you in cuffs before you can even blink, pal. Right, Mr. Edgeworth? This issue isn't as open and shut as you're making it out to be, Detective. You can't touch me. It's too late for that.
Hold it!
In your actions over the last 18 years, the statute may not have expired yet. This ought to be good. Alright, I got nothing to hide. If there's something you want to ask, ask it. Very well. Tell us where you've been and what you've been doing since the incident. Sure. Not long after the contest, I was able to cure my taste disorder thanks to the formula from that book. And not so long after that, I went to Zhang Fa to really buckle down and hone my craft. That explains a lot. Tried to contact you after the fact, but I guess you were long gone by then. Could be. I left, let's see, around a year after the murder. It was before Tangaroa's last day in court. Going to Zhang Fa was the best thing I ever did. Flavor, design, I'm the full package now.
Objection!
And murderer. And all on the backs of the lives you destroyed. What's an omelet without a few eggs, Nothing, Mr. Prosecutor. Nothing. You're evil. Sticks and stones, girlie. Can't arrest me, and that's all that matters. Need more to work with. Has to be something I could get out of him. Maybe I could push him further on the statements he just made. Is there anything I should follow up on? His training in Zhang Fa. I'd like to ask you to tell us more about your training in Zhang Fa, if you wouldn't mind. Fine. I later went to Zhang Fa to train and finally became the best in the world.
Hold it!
Zhang Fa, and you were there for a while, I imagine? Yeah, left sometime after the investigation had wrapped up. I've been meaning to go there and start my studies for a while. And thanks to the hard work I put in... my designs are now world-class! Whoa, that's amazing! You like it? It's yours. Really? Alright. You just took food from a murderer. Why would you want that? So we spent some time in Zhang Fa training.
Hold it!
Depending on your actions over the last 18 years, the statute... Okay.
Objection!
Look, it's Ximang pastry. Too skinny. We're wondering why would you want to take something from that's still sticky dough? It's sugar. It's like fondant, I think, that he's working with. It's literally just like it's like edible, like it's not dough. It's he said it's some kind of sugary substance which is edible on its own. In fact, look at his son in the evidence. His son is straight up just eating one of those confections. That looks like a rooster, I guess, or a bird. It's finished food, is essentially. All he's really doing is when he's puffing it up, he's just blowing air into it to shape it. He straight up says those two things he has are just air pumps. Would you mind telling us more about Mr. Tangaroa's final day in court? Fine. As for Tangaroa, I didn't stick around for his final court appearance.
Hold it!
And you weren't summoned as a witness at any point by the prosecution or the defense? I had more important things to do than worry about some court case. I was busy getting ready to go and become the best. Gregory and me searched high and low for the guy. Seemed like he didn't want to be found. Sounds like he played his cards right and managed to avoid setting foot in court. Likely sugar paste, something that was hardened into to be sugar glass, maybe. Just be taffy, too. Sugar dough, Michael. me when I get kneaded like dough.
Hold it!
You do the math. You can't arrest me. Never say never, Mr. Gusto. Nothing is impossible. Really? Come on, give it up. Your father couldn't catch me. What makes you think you can? We've solved this whole case if it hadn't been for Mr. Von Karma obstructing him at every turn. And now the statute of limitations is threatening to enter the truth of this case forever. Enter? Don't listen to Mr. Edgeworth. You can't give up. Not now. Can't be, Taffy. It's pretty hot to handle until it gets stretched. Oh. We're doing this for your dad, so we have to see it through to the end. Okay. Truth is right there for the taking. What kind of great thieves are we if we don't grab it for ourselves? I'm not a great thief, Kay, but you're right. Carmelo Gusto, I won't allow you to make off with the truth. You're worst.
Hold it!
Oh, I see. Because I added a new statement that appeared before the statement, it, like, rewound itself. I was really confused as to why it was, like, suddenly back in a previous, thing. Just like to learn stuff. It's a noble pursuit. Think I'd have confessed otherwise?
Hold it!
That was the only reason, because you knew the statute had expired. Why else would I do it? Why would anybody? Not that I planned on it ever coming out, of course. And why was that? Because I'm finally the world's greatest confectioner, and petty stuff like this only gets in the way of me and my craft. So you're more concerned about you and your rep than the fact that Samson's still rotting in jail. Seen some pieces of work in my time, but you're just flat out unforgivable. Who cares about forgiveness? I did what I did. I don't need any of you to understand it. Alright, Miles, it's official. Uncle Eddie is mad, and that doesn't happen often. You're not the only one. But don't worry, he won't get away with this. Not if I can help it. I feel you have a weird patchwork of information, too. I mean, I like to learn some stuff. Here and there. I like to pick up new hobbies. Like right now, like me with the Rubik's Cubes right now. I got an official speed cube, and I'm going to try to learn to, at least get a solving time down to under a minute. Which would be really cool, if I can get that. Mr. Gusto is no ordinary opponent. He's gone 18 years without his crimes being exposed. Think, Mr. Edgeworth. There must be some way for us to arrest him. The guy's probably watched a few legal dramas before, but he's no lawyer. Not like you and me. There's gotta be some loophole somewhere we could use. There's just gotta. He's right. Mr. Gusto is an armchair attorney, after all. Murder, 15 years from the start of the crime. Statute is suspended should the suspect flee to a foreign country. Statute is suspended from any time from the time of any accomplice's indictment to the end of their trial. So, Samson Tangaroa was indicted and on trial for a whole year. So that's already a plus year to that. So that's 16 years. And now we just need to know how long the suspect was in Zhangfa. Because if he was in Zhangfa for more than 2, then that makes up for the 18 years total. Which would mean he's still within the statute of limitations.
Objection!
Wrong statement, though. This evidence will expose the truth at last. Pathetic. Is this your idea of a joke? It's not, but this evidence doesn't point to any kind of contradiction at all, does it? May I continue?
Objection!
You had to just use on the Zhangfa one. I figured. Just tried it there to be safe. And it wasn't safe. Good for me. The statute of limitations for murder is subject to the following conditions. The statute is suspended should the suspect flee to a foreign country. Which means that the time you spent abroad doesn't count towards the total time under the statute. No way, so it's like someone hit pause while he was in Zhangfa? It appears that there may be time left on the clock yet. But that will depend on how long you stayed in Zhangfa, Mr. Gusto. It was 3 years exactly. There we go. We got him. 3 years. Hold on. Nobody say anything until I've done the math. Murder happened 18 years back. The statute is 15 years. Add the 3 overseas. 15 plus 3 makes exactly 18. Which means... No way. Mr. Edgeworth, you did it. The statute hadn't expired after all. Bingo. 18 years exactly. Glad you worked it out for yourselves. She's just been stringing us along this whole time. Why is he laughing? We're good, aren't we? We can arrest him now. Hate to break this to you, little sis, but IS-7 went down at the end of December. It's April now, which means, strictly speaking, it's been over 18 years, and it's been 18 years and 4 months since Frost's murder. If Gusto's stay in Zhengfa really lasted 3 years on the nose, it's not enough. We're a few months short. Not enough? But... What did I tell you? You can't touch me! No. Hate to admit it, but he read the board... He read the board well when he made his confession. How unfortunate, Mr. Edgeworth. If only the statute had been suspended for another year. Those who would overturn the goddess's judgment must be willing to pay the price should they fail. And you, Mr. Edgeworth, have failed. No! There must be something I can do. I knew it. Well, if the law can't bring Mr. Gusto to justice, then... Judes, what are you thinking?
Objection!
There's no need to go adding to your rap sheet just yet. We're not done here. Far from it. Because there's still a way we can nail him. There is? Alright, Mazzarino, pep talk. You need to think back over everything we know about the case. Gusto's overlooked one critical thing that you yourself were led to believe wrongly about. Which is... He wasn't there for Samson's last trial, remember? Best I can tell, he doesn't seem to know what the final verdict that came down that day is. Which means there's still one way left to us. Crack open your statutes for dummies there and take another look. 17 years ago, they really did a number on Samson and framed him like a petty picture. Like a pretty picture. If we make good use on that verdict now, we can make Gusto pay in full for what he's done. Fender, are you... Those who would overturn the goddess's judgment must be willing to pay the price should they fail. Samson's my client, Miles, and I can't bring myself to use the source of his pain as a weapon in this fight. So whether we play our last card or not, it's gonna have to be up to you. Bringing Mr. Gusto to justice can only happen if I use the outcome of that hard-fought trial. So, should I raise an objection and play that card or not? Why wouldn't we? Because it'll hurt your dead dad's feelings? Come on. My father and Mr. Von Karma, one sought to reveal the truth, the other to hide it. I know which path I choose to follow, the one that seeks to reveal the truth. This court has reached its final verdict. The record will state that Mr. Gusto has been found not guilty on all counts.
Objection!
No, Your Honor. Mr. Carmelo Gusto is absolutely guilty. And I refuse to let him walk away. His crimes are too unspeakable to go unpunished. Do you mean to suggest that you have the grounds upon which to call for his arrest? I do. Now to show Judge Gavelle something that proves the statute of limitations hasn't expired.
Take that!
Very well. Is there a particular page of the IS-7 case you'd like us to refer to? I guess that's suspect data? I'd like to direct your attention to the page concerning the suspect. As you can see, Samson Tangaroa was convicted as an accomplice, and it took around 1 year from his indictment for that verdict to be reached. Yes, that does seem to be the case. He's becoming his own person, his own prosecutor. The book you gave us details certain conditions pertaining to the statute of limitations for murder. One of them, as I mentioned, is that the statute is suspended if the suspect flees the country. And another states that the statute is suspended from the time any accomplice's indictment to the end of their trial. What? Tangaroa was convicted as an accomplice? Yep. Guess you were in Zhengfa when the verdict came down. Samson was convicted as an accomplice, not as the main perpetrator. Which is clearly news to you, and not good news either, am I right? But how can that be? Tangerel wasn't accomplice to anyone! He was innocent and you know it! Oh, we know it. It's what we've been trying to prove all along. And in a pleasing twist of fate, his wrongful conviction will be the very thing that sets him free. If you spent 3 years in Zhangfa, and your accomplice Samson Tangerel was on trial for 1 year, it means you could still be charged with Mr. Frost's murder up to 19 years after the fact. In other words, the statute of limitations hasn't expired at all yet. Ah! The goddess's judgment is infallible, but that of her servants, it appears, is not. It seems the prosecutor in charge of this case may have erred. Unbelievably, we may have no choice but to instigate a full inquiry. No, how could this? You weren't supposed to be able to! 18 years. It's a long time to let somebody else suffer for your crimes. It's time to pay the piper, Gusto, and not a moment too soon. Ah! But I'm finally the greatest! My brilliance has been recognized! I gave up everything for this! Everything! Even my own son! More's the pity. But you can't run from the law forever, because the bills come due at last. It's a great breakdown, by the way. Amazing how the arm stayed floating in the air like that when he was chopped off the main body. Mr. Zal Gusto set for his trip downtown, sir. I gotta say, though, the breakdowns are not as fluid in this as they are in the DS versions. Alba's was like that, too. Like, his had a weird, like, delay in the animation. Oh, good. Which means it's your turn next, right? I suppose so. Judes. I'm so sorry, everybody. Caused you all so much trouble. But, thank you. Thank you so much for bringing Mr. Gusto to justice at last. I'm afraid there's no escaping the consequences of your own actions, Miss Bound. But those actions were born of the legal mistakes that were made all those years ago. We all know that. So allow me to apologize in return, on behalf of the prosecution. Oh no, I have no one to blame but for myself for it all. Starting with those sculptures. Hey, Judes, think maybe you want me to represent you? I'm not some nervous newbie anymore. And there's no way I'm letting you take the rap for everything. Aw, she's a crying cream. Oh, I'd be honored. Thank you, Mr. Fender. That is some thick tears right there. That's why her fan's covered like that. Aw. Sorry, man, but you gotta come with me now. Of course. Judge Gavel, why did you lie to us? Lie? What are you talking about? You implied that there was no case for a retrial, but as we've proven, that wasn't true. Surely anyone truly committed to seeing justice done would have called one as soon as the body was found. I am under no obligation to answer such questions. Think she needs to go to the doctor? Yeah, for that crying. I was gonna say why. Oh, for the crying. And you clearly have no intention of doing so either. What did she just say? No, okay. Oh, this music. You're gonna be hearing this a lot soon. Truly, you're proving to be quite a threat to the Committee for Prosecutorial Excellence. As such, you give me little choice but to report back on your continued transgressions. No doubt you'll be called to appear before the committee in due course. That's the PCE's theme. Or the CPE's theme. And you're going to be hearing it a lot starting next chapter. Now, I must be on my way. What the heck? And after you caught the real killer and everything? This means you guys in the committee are incompetent? You'll see. Don't worry. There's incompetence, alright, but that's not the main driving factor behind certain things. Isn't that what prosecutors are supposed to do? Or isn't that what prosecutors are supposed to do? Regardless of how it may all play out, I will never regret what we accomplished here today. Mr. Edgeworth. Hey, Mr. Edgeworth? Yes? Why did you stick your nose in this case anyway? You weren't even on the job. My job is to bring the truth to light, Mr. Winner. Not only as a prosecutor, but as a person. I don't get it. I wouldn't expect you to understand. Not as long as you believe that closing a case makes you a winner. That's going way over my head. I'm going home. What was all that about? Eustace still has a lot to learn, is all. Milesy Wowsy? Yes? I just wanted to say old Greggy Pegleg would have been proud of you today. Oh, look at me tearing up. That and thanks for helping poor Sammy Poople. Of course. Hey, Edgy, looks like you cleared everything up, huh? So, what happened exactly? I was kind of busy sketching. Wait, where did Judy and Verity go? Wow, you really weren't paying attention, were you? I am loath to admit it, Larry's sketches did come through for us on more than one occasion. Not that I'm about to tell him that. Put it with the glaring, will ya? Whatever I did, I'm sorry! Calm down, Larry, I wasn't glaring at you. You totally were. You're just like your pop. He was a terrible liar, too. He was? Listen, I'm gonna head out. Need to fill Samson in on what went down today. Wanna come with? Yes, of course. Great, then I'm coming too. Outside of the credits, you're not going to be seeing Larry again for a very, very long time. But he is still around, don't worry. April 2nd, 4:56 p.m. Detention Center, Visitor's Room. So what's Mr. Tangaroa like? Can't wait to finally meet him. Oh, he's a real sweetheart. You'll love him. Even while locked up, he can't help but make all sorts of cookies and cakes for everyone. That's why 3 p.m. cake extravaganza is a thing for prisoners and guards alike. Really? That sounds awesome. Think there'll be any left for us to try? Didn't we find a few slices of chocolate cake in the prison the other day? Could they have been some of Mr. Tangaroa's baked goods? Wow. Calling back to the cake that Gumshoe ate in Candace's cell. Gummy, what are you doing here? Heard you were all coming to see Mr. Tangaroa, so I volunteered to escort him. Hello, new friends. I'm Samson Tangaroa. Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth at your service. God, he looks so tired. And I'm Mr. Edgeworth's trusty sidekick, Kay Faraday. It's very nice to meet you both. Miles here is Gregory's son. Is that so? Your father was very kind to me, and fought so hard for my case. But in the end, I betrayed him. I made a false confession, and... Don't worry, Mr. Tangaroa. Mr. Fender has explained everything to me. Sure did. And now we're here to tell you the truth about what happened 18 years ago. The truth? Judy did all that. For me. Crazy kid racked her brain for 18 years until she finally figured out how to set you free. What can I say? Turns out she really would do anything for you. Oh, Judy. I never did anything to deserve such devotion. Come now, Mr. Tangaroa. I think we all know that's not true. The bond between the two of you has held strong for all these years, after all. You think so? Guess I'd better show him. Which piece of evidence is the proof of the bond that Mr. Tangaroa and Miss Bound share? What the fuck am I supposed to present here? I actually have no idea.
Take that!
This shows the bond between Judy and I? I guess I could see it. These things take all kinds of shapes. After all, that was the wrong thing. That wasn't what I meant at all. Thank you. You hang in there, Samson, just a little longer. I should be able to get you out soon. It was the chocolate, probably, yeah. Sorry it's taken so long. Nobody should have to wait 18 years to get justice. How long ago was that last autosave? Literally 2 minutes ago. Okay. We'll try that again. That's the first time I think I've ever done that wrong at the end of a case before. So I'm like, oh fuck, I have no idea. Come to think of it, I barely ever manually save in this game at all. Only really at the end of a segment.
Take that!
Yep, it was the chocolates. Those chocolates. Judy made them, didn't she? Yes, she did. They're super delicious and sweet. Miss Bound continued making them just as you taught her, even after that fateful day. So there would always be some waiting for you when you finally came home. Judy. I bet they're beyond super sweet then, aren't they? Very much so, I'm afraid. I win again, yes. I only wish we could hand them to you. Don't worry, sir. I'll make sure he gets them later. Which will be after a clear breach of prison policy. Not that I have the authority to stop him now, anyway. Thank you very much. You know, Detective, something about you reminds me of Detective Bad. Really, pal? Because I look up to him a lot. He's my role model. You don't say. Seems like fate likes to bring people of all sorts together. You hang in there, Samson, just a little longer. Should be able to get you out soon. I'm sorry it's taken so long. Nobody should have to wait 18 years to get justice. In fact, it's the next game in the series right now, so don't worry, it won't take 18 years. Don't be silly, Eddie. I'm the one who should be saying sorry. Or rather, thank you, truly. Samson. Well, I guess it's my turn to wait for Judy to come home now. I better make sure there's something delicious on the table for her when she finally walks through that door. Don't let me down, Eddie. Leave it to me, big guy. The IS-7 incident. It's been 18 long years, but this case we'd inherited from my father is finally coming to a close. Hey, Miles. Thanks for today. And sorry for forcing you to make the final call like that. Not at all. Simply made the call that felt right to me. Huh? What are you guys talking about? No, Samson was wrongfully convicted. We had to pretend that he wasn't in order to nail Gusto. But to use this false conviction against him, even to save him, as his lawyer, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Yeah, I could see that. But now that Gusto's behind bars, I could finally start to get that wrongful conviction overturned. Yes, and I'm sure you will. Wait a minute, does that mean even if you were only doing what's right? If the false conviction had gotten overturned before today, Mr. Gusto would have gotten away scot-free? Yup. It's what we and the folks in the trade like to call a legal contradiction. The law is far from perfect. Because of things like legal contradictions, right? Yeah, but you never know. Things might change. Law's always evolving, just like us humans. Your Uncle Eddie and Mazzarino included, am I right? The potential for growth and change. In people and the law, huh? So, Miles, are you going to keep fighting crime as a prosecutor? Or help people as an attorney? Something tells me you got a big decision ahead of you. One only you can answer. I know. Well, let's just say I won't complain if you show up at the office one day. And on that note, it's time for me to skedaddle. I owe you big time, and I always repay my debts. But for now... Thanks again for today. I mean it. He seemed kind of in a hurry to get out of here, to you? He did. And honestly speaking, I'm the one who owes him a great debt of gratitude. After all, he gave me the chance to reckon with my father's case. With my father's final case. Ha ha. When I was a boy, all I ever dreamed of was becoming an attorney like my father. But then, during my time with Mr. Von Karma, I learned the way of the prosecutor instead. Eventually, with the help of some good friends, found my own voice and a new way to live. But now, Now my career as a prosecutor is at risk of being taken away from me. It may be time to take another long, hard look at how I want to live my life, whether I like it or not. No, we're not done yet. April 2nd. Edgeworth and Co. Law Offices. Hey, Gregory. Sorry for reporting in so late. May have taken 18 years, but we're finally in a position to prove Samson's innocence. All thanks to your boy Miles. Couldn't have done it without him. You should have seen him. The way he fought for the truth gave me chills. It was like I was watching you. Look, I know I'm not half the attorney you were, but those guiding principles you tried to instill in me, I like to think I'm embodying them now as I carry on your legacy. And I'll confess my feelings to that man. Yes, that man, him. Here's hoping. Your boy will be joining me in that soon. Alright, it was an auto photo. And I'm going to fight crime as a prosecutor, or am I going to help people as an attorney? What is the right answer? Which path should I choose? Turnabout Legacy. The end. Hoo boy, that is definitely a high point right there. But we're not done yet. We got 2 more cases ahead of us still. I will start the next one like right now, but I do want to check something real quick. Because I feel like I missed an achievement. Trust me, this isn't over yet. None of this is over. Oh, okay. I see. I thought I didn't get this, but it turns out you had to get the one in the first game first. Hey, Trashbag Television, thank you for the raid. Got me right between parts here. 1 second. Okay, perfect. We could actually just start right from there. Hey, everyone. Hey, Kona. How's the game going? Really good. Let me give you a shout out real quick. Turnabout Bird, yeah. Thank you so much for the raid. What were you playing? Sonic Frontiers? Hell yeah. Love that game. I need to finish the DLC. I never went back to it. Nice, nice. I didn't do this. I never did the final wave of DLC with the true ending. Or the alternate ending. I still have to go back sometime. I did play the new game, though. Sonic and Shadow Generations. Shadow Generations is so good. But thank you. Frontiers have been pretty fun enjoying it so far. Nice. I'm glad. You should definitely take your time with it. It's a very interesting game. And not my favorite Sonic game, but definitely a weird, fun step in the right direction. Heard great things about Shadow Generations too. Yeah, definitely play that when you get the chance. It's really fun. Anyway, if you are not following Trashback Television, you should go follow them right now. Thank you so much for the raid. To anyone who's joining, I'm Michael Macaw. I'm a PNG tuber and variety streamer. My PNG tuber is not on screen right at the second, but it's there. I took it down for the end of the case. I stream a variety of games throughout the week, usually late nights like now. And right now I'm going through Ace Attorney Investigations 2, Prosecutor's Path. I'm actually just about to start the 4th episode, so if you are wary of spoilers, I do not blame you if you want to duck out. Trashbag, if you need to do after stream care and duck out yourself, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I will absolutely take care of your community while you're here. Even though the stream is not going on for a lot longer, it's probably going to go for like another 40 minutes at most. Because I am getting tired. But I definitely want to make a little more progress here. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to stop the recording and then restart it, and we'll start the last part for tonight.